At least I know that, like, I'm in good health because I have made it through this intact. So I
Yeah.
know, if I was going to have a heart attack or a stroke, I would have done it while I was reading this.
I would have chosen to do this.
It's a stress test. So this is a unique, joyous episode of Annegirls because we're fucking done! We're done!
Thank googly moogly. I didn't have anything more in me, and I celebrated by reading a different book. Upset. I'm done. But you know what? I was very not. I mean, I was surprised that in this last chunk there were um, two more chapters about Ash talking about old stuff.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Sorry, Mom.
And again, it's just like in this thing, like I remember, but like not in context, like anything he is like encountering in the actual like current plot line, which to me, that's an info dump. That's an info dump, and we are told not to do that. And just like I've talked about before, you can know the rules and break the rules if there's good craft reason to do so. I just don't know that that's the case here.
No.
I would
That's what
argue
you
not.
want.
Yeah. And I think that it's hard, like as a writer coming up in this in a time period where like I was just devouring like stuff like this, but like not this bad when I was younger, and then being told like how tight everything has to be and how everything has to be edited and how I have to follow all these rules, and seeing every fucking writer like break it for the most part. I could pull shit off of my shelf that is like, how did this get published? I read stuff all the time that is like, how did this get published? And this book is how did this get published, but also, yeah, that one. At least that one had a plot though, which is more than this does most of the time. Have you read that? Have you started reading it?
No, I busted it out last night because I'm like, I can finally read this.
It's don't have high expectations for it.
I don't at all, but like anything is better than it took us 2 months to read this. Because I logged when we started in Goodreads and then when I finished it. It took us 2 months. And like, that's not normal.
No.
We eat books for breakfast.
The one thing I will say about Dark Prism, though, since you held it up, is that it very much fits the themes of the movies we seem to be watching all the time.
That's why I picked it up. Yeah, there's definitely been a theme lately, and I'm not mad about it. It's the time of year where, you know, I watch possession movies. Okay, well, honestly, I don't have much to say. There was like a long rant about how, I mean, he betrayed all of his people to be a Christian, and then he got cursed by a lady Taltos, as she should. It's awesome. And then he was like haunted by a witch, and yeah, none of that mattered because this isn't about Ash. None of it mattered.
But ultimately, Ash is like the problem, the final, like he ultimately is fucking a Mayfair Taltos. I mean, that is how we end up, which is,
dude, they know that they're smelly. Like this has been a thing. Know that they smell like something delicious cooking. They know there's a smell and that they're all witches, okay? And I not Michael. Michael's whatever, but Rowan was a doctor sailor. She's intelligent. She knew. They know at this point, with all of these info dumps and everything that they've been through, she was kidnapped and assaulted repeatedly. They know Mona was pregnant with a Taltos. You know how Taltos are made. He told you a bunch of different ways. These are the ways. They've experienced it. They knew. Like, they knew.
even okay, so it gets revealed and they just sit. They just
Yeah.
sit where like everyone knows where they're at, including Ashler, and
Mm-hmm.
he's such a baby back bitch. I don't know what to say about him besides like he's just like I can't be he's lived this life for hundreds of years, thousands of years. He's lived this life on his own. But he meets these two and he's so moved he has to go check in on them like the next week after sending them like priceless things that mean so much to him. And
No, I don't think it has anything to do with him. He knew. He knew. He knew. He knew something was up.
well, I
Like,
think he figured if there wasn't something up, he'd be trying to hit Mona.
I'm saying, he's like, oh, I would never hurt Mona. Wink. Like, everybody's skeevy. Everybody. And like, but I mean, just let her go. You know, like we like you just know they're gonna. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Just
Well, I mean, they could have been more upfront if they were going to, or they could have gotten the fuck out. Just like take Morgan and like go to South America. You were a gajillionaire, you know,
I
go
just
on
don't
to
see why it
be as
matters.
Dr. Sailor, be
She gave that up.
in the
Okay.
ocean, you know. I'm just saying there
Uh,
were like so many ways that this could have been avoided if that's ultimately what they wanted. And if it wasn't, then
don't
they
think so.
probably should have spoke with Ash because he's a very God, I don't want to say that he's reasonable, but I mean he's talked about how in the old ways they would like banging would be like a ritual thing that they do when they decide they need more Taltos. So they could be like, okay, so let's give you a quota and we're not going to let this get out of control. We're not going to do lasher shit, you know, because I think that if they would have done that, this insta love that they all had for each other should have meant something. But instead, they're just like, nah, we're just going to be people that can't discuss anything. Again, it's like that's the reason why I couldn't stand like Seinfeld because I was like, if anybody just like spoke once, like this whole episode would be over because they would just like have worked all this out by just like using their adult voices. And I hate TV shows and like movies and books where that's the premise where it's just all withholding
That was a show about
information.
so it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's just there's so much stuff that's based on that, but at the same time, like we're getting all this info dump. How is that consistent with this character when we're getting all like 3 chapters at the end at least? I think maybe more that
It
were
was
just
no,
info dump.
yeah, it was like four altogether. And it was like I was just super unnecessary. And I just feel like um instead of doing that random Lasher info dump at the end of Lasher, she could have done this whole I mean, I get why she didn't do it with Lasher because Lasher was like a stupid and he was like, you know, outside of the Taltos norm.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know, we could have even done, I don't know. I just feel like we just really didn't need it and they should have kept Ash like way more mysterious if he was just gonna swoop in at the end and steal their baby monster. You know, if he didn't ask their permission, and he made it a big point that they
My
asked for permission before impregnating someone's child.
my baby bride. Never again. Never again. I'm gonna put this in the thrift store box, but I'm gonna tell you that I am very tempted to burn it. It's going to the thrift store, but in my mind, I burned it. Okay, because I don't want to burn it and like have to deal with like this is a lot of stuff to burn, and that's a lot of
I
like
never want to
watching.
see these books
I
again.
don't. I'm done.
I never want to see them again. This one could have just yeeted. They could have just yeeted, you know, because Mona started pregnant in this book. They could have just made the last book a little bit longer, you
Mm-hmm.
know. The whole Ash thing and the Yuri, all that could have been like truncated. We could have cut out some of that stuff with what's that man's name? I keep wanting to call him Steven. Stewart?
Stewart, yeah,
Is his name
yeah,
Jordan?
Stewart,
They
the
could
old
have
man.
they could have just shrunk all that. She could have just made 2 1,000-page books. We would have read it regardless, but like
Yeah.
we wouldn't have had to read this, you know. And I think that Mary Jane, I feel like she was unnecessary. I feel like Mary Jane and Grandma and the nothing happened with the freaking house. I feel like all of that was unnecessary. This was a drag, and this was you just dragged. I feel like she said, you know what, I'm not done, and
One
like
thing
she
I will
just had
say
this drag.
about that final scene, where he comes up to the house and because you were like, this bitch be smashing windows and shit, like he can control himself. It reminded me of Society when that guy is like giving his speech and the lady opens her legs and he
Oh
suddenly
yeah.
malfunctions. Like, do people really do that? Like, do you really like, I don't
No,
know.
people don't actually do it. It's literally just how we talk when we're exaggerating. Like that man is so fine. I would smash the glass on my way to him, talking about Pedro Pascal or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, no, no, we're not actually actionably that feral.
I feel like when I'm feral, I am so sly because I am not gonna get caught doing it. Okay, I made a game
Morgan,
out of staring at a bitch every time I saw him for like 4 years, and I would just like sit there and stare at him. And if he looked my way, my ass was gone. He couldn't even see me. You're not gonna catch me being feral.
Morgan's been alive for 5 minutes. She has no chill. She has not developed any chill. I think it takes 1,000 years for Taltos to develop a chill.
Besides being Michael and Mona's child, the two worst characters that were ever created. And as soon as she
Mona's
started talking, I'm like,
13. Mona is 13. She's not even fully developed. How could her
no,
kid be? She's 13. She's 13.
no. And then she's written like an adult, and it's so
And it's
fucked.
sad because Mona is so desperate to
Yeah,
have Morgan because she needs someone to love her. Because she does
yeah,
all the grown-ups in her life are fucking around and screwing her over. I feel
that's
so
true.
bad for her. And now I can't remember if now I'm after going through this shit and being almost 34, I'm just like, what did happen with Mona and Quinn? I can't remember, but I hope it's they just end up happy together, but I'm pretty sure he turns into a vampire at some point, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate everything.
I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. And you know what's so funny? Like Freddie's never even seen Interview with a Vampire. The only thing that he knows about Anne Rice is literally what I have complained about from these books, which is
Uh-oh.
good because I don't want him to know how hard I used to ride for Anne Rice, right? But he knows, he's aware. So like he said, "Okay, so you guys are done. Are you not going to read any more of her books?" And I was like, "Yes, we are." And he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Cause we already agreed to do it." And I was like, "And I like the Vampire Chronicles." And he says to me, looks me in my face, and he says, "Do you really like the Vampire Chronicles, or was that just your teenage hormones?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't know.
Well,
I
we're
don't
about to
know."
find out. I will tell you that when we get to the Vampire Armand, I'm gonna be wanting to fight on the regular because it's the same shit. I just like, I need to know what her fascination was with writing children this way. And it's
I
like, at
don't.
least the Vampire Armand had a historical context to it. At least I will give it that. It's still disgusting. It still
But don't you
ruined
think
Marius.
that she like clings to that as like an excuse?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure. And I mean that came well after this, I would say, timeline wise, I think. I don't that like the Vampire Armand's like book 4 or 5 in that series. Let me find out.
Yeah, it's after this because it's not on the list in the front cover. It ends
Yeah.
with Memming Up the Devil, which is
Vampire
it's gonna
Armand
be a
was
banger.
1998.
Oh damn.
Yeah. So like she
Yeah,
didn't
and like
come
Interview with
back
the
around to
Vampire
a
is
historical context until well after she pulled this. Which, like, I'm a
Yeah.
history bitch to an extent, so like I get that, like, using historical context of things and like trying to be true to it even when it like disgusts you with your modern sensibilities. I understand that, but there was no need for most of this. Like I said,
Right. And then she cut that shit out when she stopped talking about, the history of the witches. But then I think back to all like, well, I'm gonna use the historical context of slavery to like add all this blatantly racist shit in it. And
yeah,
I, mm, you know,
especially because if you're gonna do that and you're going to put this family as plantation owners in the South, do not white savior them, which is what she
no,
tried to do so many fucking times. It's like, if you're going to put that context in there, put it in there, put it in there right. Depict them as bad. That's the one thing is like, and I know you can't really like, you're not supposed to like depict your characters as like either way, but you're supposed to show like all sides of them and let the reader make a choice. Instead, all you get are these like tainted familial recollections of these people from people who love them. So you don't even
yep,
get like the outside perspective at all. Like, put one, I mean, you put so much shit in here, put one viewpoint, like chapter from somebody that was in like victimized or hurt or something by them, or like show something like that instead of just like Michael's an archangel. Like,
I love how you always.
I hate that so much that you don't understand the way that I almost stroked out reading that. Like, at least I know that, like, I'm in good health because I have made it through this intact. So I
Yes.
know, if I was going to have a heart attack or a stroke, I would have done it while I was reading this.
I would have chosen to do this.
It's a stress test.
No, it really is. I can't. 550 something pages. Like, that's just too many pages of this.
Yeah.
It's just too many.
And
But
I
we
think
made it.
to an extent, like the Ash stuff, it could have been interesting if she would have found a way to like weave it into a narrative, or like him actually reacting to things that were happening in real time. And that could have happened because we knew that we were going to send him off with more again. We knew
Yeah,
that he was going, he came in contact with Tessa. It could have been a conversation between him and Tessa, even to see what she remembered of their shared past, because Taltos remember the life before, supposedly.
yeah, they
But
they didn't get to spend any time together. Like they
no.
could have merged their like memories and what there could have been some cool ritual where even though they couldn't make babies, because he definitely when he's doing this info dump, like the older Taltos who aren't childbearing anymore still have immense value
Wisdom.
because they are allowed to share those things without worrying about creating a
Mm-hmm.
monster baby. And yet he's just like, well, I'm gonna go after the one who can create monster babies.
Yeah. That doesn't
Like
have control of their faculties yet, which, I mean, to some extent, like a mentor mentee relationship would have been more
they could have
appropriate
been her
there.
parents. Like Asher and Tessa could have taken Morrigan and they could have gone off to this island and
Mm-hmm.
like waited till she grew up and then made the decision like to have babies. I feel like that would have been better.
I feel like the thing about Ashler and the way they tried to paint him was that he was so measured and so wise from all of his
Uh-huh.
time. And
But
yet
he
he
lost
does the
all.
most impulsive, like, baby bitch shit. I just
He literally was like,
let me
they're
at her.
back. They're not texting me back, so I'm just gonna fly over there. Fly to their country because I know where they live because I sent them presents. That is stage 5 clinger behavior. You wait for the text back. They would have called him eventually. They would have. That's not how we date in 2024.
He's just disgraceful. I'm just
But then he turns into a slobbering dog at the end.
yes.
Like that will hump anything that after oh, I would
He's got her
never
teddies out, suckling her teddies like on the front lawn, dude.
after After everything he said. And that is why Yuri stood on business and said, I feel these crazy things about this man, but I don't fuck with that. And I'm gonna get away.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna stop going after a 13-year-old because all of a sudden I've come to my senses and none of this shit is right. It's like he was intoxicated by being in the Mayfair witch web, and once he got outside of it, he was like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah.
Like, what?
Which maybe in some respects it's like gives him a little bit of a saving grace. He was an interesting character at the beginning.
I do give it. Yeah, because I feel like now that I'm done and I can like put myself over here, I can see everything as a whole. I think that there's a lot of fucked up energy that they put out, especially like Rowan and Michael, because they're crazy. Like they're actually crazy. And this house, like these houses that he was, going back and forth in where they've lived, like
Mhm.
there's all this spiritual mayhem from the past and the present and probably the future. Like the man's head was spinning, and I think Aaron was caught up in that also, and
Yeah.
he got married into it. I think that they never stood it, like he never stood a chance. Like you have to
Mm.
get out. I think that they were poisonous from beginning to end.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish, and I don't think it happens. I don't know. But instead of bringing Mona back, which I guess I kind of understand, why didn't they bring Yuri back? Why didn't she bring Yuri back at some point? And like,
Well, I mean, Quinn is a teenager. Like he's an older teenager, so like it would
oh,
make sense
yeah.
to pin him with but I'm gonna tell you this right now. It is just a mild part in the plot, but he definitely has a child with someone who is significantly older than him. Yeah, yeah, that doesn't end.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And
Mhm. I know.
just like let kids be kids.
I
And
was mad about that because I was a teenager. I'm like, why is everybody after my man? I can't wait to read Blackwood Far.
well, we'll definitely like read it in its order with the Vampire
Yeah,
Chronicles.
as we should.
And so that is kind of where we're headed next. We are going to take a long break though. I think that I'm guessing
Yeah.
that this will probably run in maybe August, I think, because we're doing a bi-monthly schedule and I have a lot behind. I'm a lot.
So,
Um, but we probably won't be back until November, is what
yeah, I need the
I'm
break.
looking
I'm
at.
starting school in August.
Yeah,
My break is gonna be.
and we have 31 Days of Horror on
Yeah.
our other podcast on Ghost in the Magazine, which will run in October, but we will have it in the bag before October. If you're stumbling across this conversation, would I recommend this book or this series? Not at all. 100% no.
No, no. If you're gonna read anything, Anne Rice, pick a Vampire Chronicle book.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, pick Ian Ramsey's The Damned. Pick the Mummy book.
I haven't read that
That
one
I'm
yet.
pretty sure was not problematic. I think it's just somebody's got to affect the mummy, and it's an adult. So,
If it's an adult fucking the mummy, I'm okay. I'm good with
yeah,
age gaps if you're an adult, right? Like,
yes,
I don't
yeah,
care.
but 13-year-olds, no.
Have a
And they were like,
developed brain. That's all I'm
no.
asking.
I mean, and it wasn't just 13-year-olds. It was like literal small children, like all through this book. It's been minors, like
Yeah.
all through these books. It's just no, like we don't have to do that. We don't have to do none of that, and I can't recommend that. Sorry.
No. I do think that there is something about it that like really scratches an itch for me with like that gothic family story that goes back for centuries. I
Yeah,
love that shit. The first time I read this, I was able to put everything else aside because I was so fascinated by seeing the way that this family like changed over time and seeing the way that the generations like interplay with each other. I think that's really interesting personally.
it is.
But the way that this family in particular is icky, icky.
And if you want to read these books and you decide that you don't care, you just want to read it and whatever, you don't care, I don't care. But like for us, for me, like I care. It bothers me and I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the characterization of Michael is so I'm still salty.
hate
I will be
Michael.
salty forever. I fucking hate Michael Curry.
But that Mayfair thing, that's also why I continuously roast them for being stupid idiots, because that wasn't even their choice. They got tricked by a fucking ghost, okay, to dedicate their entire life to their family, aka to him, so that he could get what he
Yes.
wanted because he wasn't ready to be dead yet. Embarrassing.
Embarrassing. Fucking embarrassing, bud.
Literally an embarrassment. Embarrassing. It can never be us.
Could never. We're too
And when
smart.
you break it down like that, you're like, wow, you bitches are stupid.
They
You may be
are.
rich, dumb.
Yes. Again,
Except
perfect example of why capitalism is a terrible fucking system. The Mayfairs. Michael Curry.
Great expectations.
Great expect. Ugh! Vivaldi and Dickens. The most fucking 101 level of anything that you could get into. I'm sorry, but if you come to me as an adult and tell me your favorite author is Charles Dickens and you're not like a grandpa, I am side-eyeing you. That is big. And I have big grandpa energy. And that is even bigger grandpa energy than I have, bitch.
I'm not going to believe you if you say it's Charles Dickens. I mean,
no, he's not even the best Victorian writer, bitch.
I'm sorry. Who did you think that you were talking to? That's not going to impress me. Sorry? What?
That's the worst thing.
No.
He thinks he's impressive.
He does. My name is Michael, and I'm so cool. I used to not be able to touch things with my bare hands.
Literally, Vivaldi was like this first or second musician that we did in our like my again college entry level music appreciation class. So it was like it's like such a like intro 101 level fascination.
And it's that she chose that life for him because Anna's incredibly intelligent and cultured.
Yes.
She's like,
I have so many questions. Are you trolling us the whole time? Is this all this anger trolling? Because I need to know.
Wouldn't that be a discovery if the entire she's cackling, like double chin cackling from the grave because she's like, fooled you. You thought I was for real.
She knew the info dumps were gonna piss us off. She knew all of it. Like, I want to believe she was playing 5D chess with us the whole time.
Yeah, she said, silly girls, this is rage bait. You got us.
You got us. Yep. But we're fucking done. Hell yeah.
Never coming back to this street. Never. I hope a hurricane puts this street underwater.
Thank you for listening to the Annegirls Podcast. You can find us on the internet at annegirls.ghostinthemagazine.site.